All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm thinking this is episode 99. I got to be honest, I don't know. I kind of lost track with the recruiting duty episodes, but we've got Scott back with us for a second time. This time, his tour of recruiting duty is over. It is all gone. The duty is done. No contracts need to be written. No one will be asking him, "What do you have for tomorrow?" The stress of being on the bag is over. Now it's just PCS season and trying to figure out the next steps of life with a family, off recruiting duty, and getting back to the Fleet Marine Corps. So, Scott, man, tell us, how does it feel to be off the bag? And let's get into your time on the duty, the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, and let's hit it, man.
Well, I mean, the first month off the bag and everything was nice. Then PCS started kind of sucked because my wife got real sick, so we got held up, delayed a little bit, and now we're just waiting to move again. So that's why you can see we're half boxed up here still from everything. But she's doing okay. But no, it does feel nice having off the duty. I will say one of the things, and I definitely recommend this to anyone. When we do get moved, I'm going to do a bit of counseling one way or another because something I've noticed is since I've gotten off, I occasionally get panic attacks in the morning, and I think it's more because I don't have anything to do at the moment, and I kind of freak out because I mean,
Mm,
3 years that was all I knew was constantly you're doing something, you're doing something, you're doing something.
yeah. So how would you say your tour all in all was? Like, did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Was it everything you thought it would be? Like, what do you now it being in the background, hindsight's 2020. What are your thoughts, man?
I mean, it was definitely probably one of the I will say it's definitely one of the best things I could probably have done for my career. Not just Marine Corps wise of like, oh, you're set for promotion, whatever, but just changing it up in the skills you do get from recruiting. I mean, I wasn't an all-star recruiter by any means. You can ask anyone, I'll cop to it. I left the streets at the end of my 3 years at a 1.0 exactly with
Mm,
my discharges. Like I did really well at times and I was god awful at other times.
yeah.
Uh, so, but I mean, overall, like I said, there's parts I really enjoyed and there was parts I really hated. It's just like I honestly think it was just like any other job. You love
Yeah.
parts of it, you hate parts of it, and you find the balance in the middle, and that's where you live.
Amen. Amen. And especially on recruiting duty, man, there's a lot of ebbs and flows, and that's the one thing about the duty that like nobody can prepare you for is that like 1 minute you're killing it, you're having a phenomenal month, and the next thing, especially now, one thing I've learned being back in the past 6 months is that like back in the day, it was a lot easier to have things happen like that.
Oh yeah.
Now you're looking at the average person taking 45, 60 days to get through. So now you've got to keep building momentum and this volume and and you can't control it, and you're and I'll be honest, it's weighing in on me. I'm used to being a guy who writes 4 a month, and now I'm struggling to write 1.
Mhm.
So now it's definitely
I,
definitely different. But how did that's something that I want to talk to you about is how did you deal with that, right? You were saying your first year you were killing it, you were a 2.0
yeah,
recruiter,
I was
and then
just
all of
shy.
a
I was
sudden
1.87.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So what was it like, being a PCS Marine? Because I
So
definitely don't talk about that enough on the podcast. So what was it like being out there on your own in a PCS? Like how is that feeling?
so I'll say this part for me with the PCS. One of the things I learned is, and I wish I'd learned it sooner. And probably the reason I didn't is because I came out there to a gap sector in a rural area, had a big area, so I had a lot to be able to pull from.
Hmm.
That had just been sitting there. And the Army in my area, they really didn't give a crap. They mostly recruited out of the AO for some reason. Uh, so I was able to build really quick and I did really good. And like you were saying, you were used to doing the fours and everything. Like Genesis and all that wasn't a thing when I first came on. I came out in a year on the duty. So pre Genesis, realistically, you didn't truly have to be systematic to be successful. Post Genesis, you have to be systematic. The systematic recruiting that they preach, you have to be now if you want to actually have success on it. But the PCS life, obviously, what will shape a lot of stuff with PCS is not necessarily just your attitude, but your command and your boss's attitude when you're first going out there.
Okay.
Because coming out of BRC, they actually screwed up my orders. Told me I was going to one PCS that was attached to a different another RSS, so like it was all screwed up. Like basically had me one PCS over from where I was actually going to be. And when I got a hold of that boss, he's like, "Oh yeah, man, no, you actually belong to this RSS." And I ain't gonna lie to you, you're going into like the worst sector in the entire RS. Then I talked to my RS major when I checked in, and he tells me pretty much the same thing. He's like, "Yeah, basically, your RSS has been our cancer sector since they came to this RS." He's like, we're happy if they miss by one. He's like, if they miss by one or two, we know we can make mission." Well, at the time was how it was, which we actually turned that around. That station we ended up making first time ever. I think it was 11 straight months of either making mission or overwriting
Oh
for a good
wow.
while out there with the team
Yeah.
that we had.
Bro, and that's a good topic, right? That's awesome. Is because a lot of times that's what happens, right? You have these cancerous RSSs, and then the right team shows up, or the right boss shows up, the right station commander shows up, and that's all it'll take to start making things happen. And that's not to say that the people before that, dude. I think the one thing that I've learned on the duty is that you can make mission even with the worst team, but it takes a lot. It's going to be a lot easier if you have a team of Marines that work together as a family and that actually coincide and coexist with one another. And at least that's my experience. Is it's a lot easier to make mission when you're in an office where you want to make mission. You know what I
Oh yeah,
mean? Like when you want to
and
come to work every single day and you want to work with the Marines to the left and right of you and you want to do it, it's a totally different lifestyle.
oh yeah, and I mean that's not to say that everything's hunky dory when you have that great team either. Because I mean there were months where we had one month where we put between four Marines, we put 27 people at MEPS
Wow.
to get 7 of them.
Mm.
And most of it was stuff out of our control. A couple ASVAB failures, like 6 astigmatisms. We just got hammered. But I
Mhm.
mean, there were other months where because a lot of it we had one bone roller, dude. I think he had 1 month where he wrote a 1. Everything else was at least a 3
Wow.
in there. So he was carrying a little bit. Like we were, even on those months we're doing good. I had 1 month where I only brought one to the table, and he was pissed off at me and everything because he was like, we're busting this. We're still one shy of mission and all this. And Hewer's only brought one to the table. Why haven't you got on his ass?" And my boss literally looked at me and was like, "Because Hewer gave me the grad shipper that needs to leave next week." He's like, "And you've given me 3 seniors."
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, you're getting the mission done, but he's also getting the ship mission so we don't miss shipping. So
Yeah.
he was able to balance that out. I will say that boss, he knew how to run that station, but I don't think he did it in the best way either, because a lot of people, there was still a lot of suffering happening at times where I don't think we necessarily needed to have that suffering happening.
Yeah, yeah, man, and it's a hard thing being a station commander, man, because knowing, you no matter what you do, someone else is gonna think you didn't do it right. One recruiter in the office might be happy you did it this way, one recruiter in the office might be happy you did it this way, and then the station, everybody and their mother is gonna have their own feelings, and at the end of the day, it's tough to be a station commander, especially now with all of the different things that are going on and stuff like that. What do you think are some things that you could have done better on the duty, or what are some things that you felt maybe your command could have done better? Like your overall experience, what do you think could have
So
helped you be better or have had a better experience?
one of the things, and this is really kind of what we were just talking about before that I really want to get into, is being able to learn how to help yourself on it. So knowing
Mm,
your AO, people are always like, "Oh, know your AO, know your AO." I've changed how I look at that, of just like, hey, the people in the community and everything too. Like, hey, know your AO's highs and lows, because every single AO, you have a time of year where you can swing for the fences and you're going to hit home runs all the time. You're going to have people walking through the door, coming through. It's just that's the hot time of year in your AO. That's when the military comes into their mind. And then you're going to have times of the year where it's dry as hell and you're going to
yeah.
struggle to get an appointment in the door. And that varies from AO to AO. Some dudes, they probably hit real good in FMAM, even though everyone hates FMAM. Other dudes, like for me, it was the second half of May through the end of September.
Yeah.
That was my hot time. That was my time to, hey, I need to throw my threes up. This is where I'm throwing my threes, everything else. That's where I need to really bring it through. End of January up until the first half of May, that was like a boneyard in my AO. It was like there was nothing there. Not boneyard in a good way. Like it was like a graveyard trying to find anything to come through. And going into my second year, now that I'd been working in the sector and everything, I didn't realize this. My boss had been doing some research. He had seen that over the last 10, he pulled McChrist data going back as far as he could take it. So it was 12 years. And in that 12 years, from pretty much February through June, that sector averaged like 1 to 2 contracts. And I didn't know that. And not necessarily something I should have known, but I look back and I'm like, I wish I had, because that first year I had a 5-month drought. I wrote 5 nuts in a row. And then, but I did have some kids working in that time, and that was like at the start of Genesis.
Yeah.
So things were rolling slow. I did start to find some stuff around like March to April, but Genesis process taking forever. And I had one kid, it took 2.5 months to get him clean because of the vape pens.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man. That's I'll be honest, man. Like what you're describing right now is what I'm living through right now, man. It's, I'm in a new AO. I've been out here 6 months. I've written 1-0, a couple of ones. I wrote 1-2. I've got like 7 kids, I think, that have all either been hit by Genesis or that one got astigmatism, one got hit. 2 have an astigmatism, and I think 4 were hit for other various reasons. So I have like 7 kids that I'm just praying work out.
Like, when's their stuff gonna come back?
Yeah, man, and it's tough because like that's never been a thing. Like that was just I never lived in that world before. So like now, and I'll be real, man. Like I've never, and I'm trying to figure out what it is that I'm doing wrong. Like being completely, humble, being real open about it. Like, dude, right now I'm struggling to freaking hit 5 interviews a month. Like back in the day, I was, I averaged anywhere from 12 to 13 interviews a month, easy. Now I'm struggling to hit 7. Like it's
and a lot rough. Of that too. One of the things that killed me is the COVID fallout, which came right around when Genesis first hit. Honestly, of the educational fallout.
Yeah.
One of our masters, he was for his master's degree. He wrote a paper of doing 3 years pre-COVID, and then it was like I think it was 2 years since COVID started, ASVAB scores, averages. And I think he was also putting it in as a point paper for like MICRIC. At a 50% drop in ASVAB scores because of that. It's none of it's the kids' fault. It was a lot of the way, the education systems didn't know how to handle that when everything first hit.
Yeah, no, it's 100%, dude. Like 100%, man. I've seen a huge drop in the amount of like, dude, I've had kids that graduated high school who walked in the next day and failed East, and it's just like, dude, what's happening, bro? Yeah. But no, I definitely get that, man. So what advice or what thoughts do you have for a PCS Marine? Like what did you deal with like mentally?
One of the biggest struggles I had was I was struggling. I had, like I said, that was 5 months of nuts. The first month that I wrote a nut. I wrote 1 nut. Master Guns Montanez, who I think you had on here not too long ago. Yeah. He was out in my office. He spent 2 days with me. Like he actually set 2 appointments with me during that time because he was TCing with me, everything. That man, like he goes for the Marines. He will do the same work you're doing. He won't just sit there. But he came out to help me to try to figure out, hey, what's the issue? After that, he moved. He PCS'd everything, got out of there. And I was asking for months, I need help. And my boss at the time was just like, well, just figure it out, do your job. And it got to the point where I literally looked at him. I was like, motherfucker, get me help or I'm going to find someone who will help me. Yeah. And it was funny because the next month they scheduled the ARI to come out and spend a couple days with me to figure out, okay, like what's going on? Because he was like, I can't help you with with the areas you're struggling at. Because it was really TCs is what was killing me. I wasn't getting much off TCs at the time, and he was never a TC recruiter. So he was like, hey, I'm not good at TCs. I can't help you with that. But And this is one of the things that upset me with my command is they scheduled it for after my baby was due. And they knew they scheduled it for after my baby was due because, I mean, they'd been asking me for like 3 months, hey, when is your wife supposed to, when's your wife due? When's your wife due?
Mm-hmm.
Baby gets born, don't end up having them come out, come back. And these kids I've been working, all of a sudden, they drop. I get them. I get 2. Next month, I write another 2. Next month, I write another 2. In the process of all this, too, our CO changed out. So we got a new CO who sees me come in. He comes in and he sees, oh, Hewer is a good recruiter. He's dropping 2s every month for like 4 or 5 straight months, his first few months out there. And then I realized, I was like, hey, it's getting to this season. I know it's going to be rough again. It's going to be hard for me. So I started trying to make sure I had stuff stacked. I started working those kids, started trying to work those kids more systematically that I knew were going to be the long pulls. And I was in my second year going through FMAM, I was able to pull 1 or 2. I still wrote another, I think I wrote 2 nuts, which happened to coincide one after the other in there. But I mean, also in that time I got put on remedial because a couple of those months I only wrote a 1 in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I was in that box, and now I'm in my 3rd year. I'm getting ready to leave. And our command was struggling at the time too. The RS was struggling, which is nothing new across MICRC. I know for the last year, a lot of commands have been struggling.
Yeah.
And, one of the big things that they always said was, you can do your 36 months, but that doesn't mean you got to get the ribbon.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized where I'm set to PCS, I'm kind of perfectly poised to where that could be me, which I did get the ribbon. I did make it out, but even my CO, when I first got put on remedial, he's like, hey, you're out of here in 3 months. He's like, so this process may speed up a little for you. Instead of like the whole 6-month process of remedial going, remedial 6105 RFC stuff.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that definitely put a scare in me. But one of the big things I had at that point, I had a different boss. I was part of a different RSS.
Mm-hmm.
And we started fighting for like, how can we make them see like Hewer's working? He is doing work. He is putting work in. He's putting TCs in. He's getting appointments. We're verifying these appointments. And these kids are still just not showing. Or he's getting this stuff. He's getting so far. And then these kids are just dropping off the face of the earth. He can't get a hold of them. I can't get a hold of them. Nothing. Because the command's just like, oh, Hewer gave up. He doesn't care. He thinks he's about to be out of here, so he doesn't care anymore.
Yeah.
So I had 2 kids set to go up on the same day, having to coincide with the day the CO was going to come out to us. Well, my boss was like, hey, you know what? I normally drive out to you anyways, and the CO is only supposed to be here for a few hours before he goes to another RSS a little further out. So my boss set it up so that CO would get there around the same time that we were supposed to be briefing these kids. So get down to my PCS pretty much.
Yeah.
And, like any good CO, comes time for the boss to brief the kids. And he's like, hey, I'm dipping out of here. I'm going to let you brief the kids. And I went outside and I had a talk with the CO, and I explained to him everything I just told you of like, hey, I know my AO. Like, here's how long it takes me. If I'm ACing anywhere outside of like the town of the PCS, it's 30-minute drive just for me to get there.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm doing this is what I'm looking at. All the different points. He actually went out AC and he tried to AC with me for almost an hour, and he couldn't get a single AC.
Mm-hmm.
Kids literally just looked at him and just like, bye.
Yeah.
So that gave him a little perspective. And then talking to him about like, hey, also, sir, if you go back and you look, here's the trend in this area. I was like, we're pushing through, we're trying to work, but we're not necessarily, this is a time of year where this area, the juice isn't on the squeeze. It's not that I gave up. I was like, oh, I did this, and then I'm in my last 6 months, so I'm just, dropping my pack. And that's part of it, because I know anyone going through the struggles, a lot of times, command doesn't necessarily see that as, oh, this Marine's working, unless you.
Yeah, dude, it is, man. It's so true. And especially like you were saying with the no shows, man. Like, again, like that's something that like it's a new thing for me because like I'll sit here and I've had it happen the past couple of months where I've had kids, no lie, like I've had mom and dad on the phone with me, can agree to the appointment. Mom and dad are like, yeah, we're going to be there. We're on our way. And then like the same day at 4:00, I'm like, hey, our appointment's scheduled for 5:30. Mom's like, yeah, we're going to be there soon. And then and I'm just like, bro, like this has never been a thing. Like I've never had mom and dad say yes and then still not show up.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's just like, dude, there's nothing more that I could do, dude. Like there's no more that I can do when the mom and dad are saying they're on their way, they agree to the appointment, and then they don't show up.
Yeah,
And
and I
it's
mean,
just like, dude, it's just like, and even like with parental consent, man, like I like the past, this today was the second time that I sat down with parents, and dude, I was there for an hour and a half, and they were like, yeah, you know what, we want you to come back. And I was like, all right, you know what, I'm not going to push you, anything like that. So I definitely, and that's the thing, that's, I'll be honest, man. There are some phenomenal CEOs out there, and there are some phenomenal command members out there, that do recognize and they do remind us of what we are going through and stuff like that. Like my current CEO, dude, we had a guy who in his last month, he killed it. And even though he had already PCS'd, they gave him, like, he won recruiter of the quarter, recruiter, like, all these awards, even though that, like, they knew that he wouldn't be there to be presented them.
mhm.
They still brought them to all hands. And then my CEO gave this bomb ass speech about the Marines' dedication. So it's to your point about, writing 5 zeros. It goes a lot it hurts the Marine mentally, because that Marine feels like they're letting down their team down, and they are. But at
Yeah,
the same time, like it's, you're
you feel like
bashing
you're
your head.
drowning.
Yeah, and the worst part is you're putting in the hours.
Mhm,
Like
and
you're
then
making the phone calls, you're making the
especially
area canvassing, you're doing the job, but you're not reaping the benefits. And when it comes to asking, I think the worst thing about recruiting duty, and this is not towards any one command, so please don't get your panties in a bunch, but dude, and I've seen it too, where Marines are like, bro, I'm struggling, I'm dying, I need training. I come see what's going on, and they don't show up.
mhm.
And then it's too far gone, and then you have a Marine who is pulling at their teeth saying, hey, come out with me, come out with me, come out with me, come show me, come see what I'm doing wrong. Hey, because it's easy for someone to be like, oh, this and this is what you're doing wrong, looking at your numbers. Okay, but why don't you come out with me?
Mhm.
Why don't you come out with me and see what I'm doing, and then maybe you can correct the downfall, because I'm all for it. I'm all about it, bro.
Oh
Like,
yeah, I would
call.
tell people like, yo, tell the command members to come out. I had one point where a year and a half I didn't have a command member come to my office, except for my XO stopped one time on a drive so he could use a bathroom for 5 minutes,
Yep.
which was still nice. So he sat there, he talked with me and everything else. But I had one of the things, I had one school where, and that's nothing against the XO. He just happened to be coming through, but I didn't have anyone come out during that time. I love my XO. Our XO was great, but also they got so much on their plate. I mean, it took him.
Yeah, that's the thing about it, man, is it's so easy for us as recruiters or station commanders to be like, "Wow, I never see my command." And then it's like, you do got to think like, dude, they have an entire, like, I don't know how your command was, but like for Jersey, we have, I think it's like 125 Marines across the whole entire state. So like we have 14 different stations, so
So I mean,
being in.
I was with Richmond, so I mean, it
Yeah.
was most of Virginia, other than like right near the top,
Yeah.
a good chunk of West Virginia, part of Tennessee, part of North Carolina.
Yeah, so like
So I mean,
being like
you have
having a
Marines that
good.
are 6 hours away from their
Exactly. And that's why it's like, it's easy to say, oh, no one's ever here, but then it's like, dude, you got to think about the logistics that goes into,
yeah, and
you
that's
know,
not to say like I wanted someone at my PCS every month, but
yeah, yeah,
when
yeah,
I
yeah.
spent 4 out of those 5 months, I wrote nuts asking, "I need help, someone come,"
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
that
yeah,
started to my boss. But
yeah.
the mistake I made, and I should have thought more of this, because one of the first things my dad ever taught me when I joined the workforce was no matter what you do at any job you have, first thing you got to do is make sure your ass is covered. Make sure you're doing stuff in a way that you can't get in trouble for it.
Mhm.
And I think we forget that on recruiting because we all have that pride of Marines. We don't want to admit that we're having these issues or we're having this. But if you're
Yeah.
having that and you're asking for help, don't just make phone calls. Don't just make texts. Sit there,
Email.
send the email to your boss. Be like,
Yep.
hey, I want this. And then when he doesn't show up, you're like, I did this. He didn't show up this day. Or
Yeah.
send that, or you're past reaching your boss. Send that email to the commander. And they're like, oh, well, we didn't even know you needed help.
Yep.
Bullshit. I
Yeah,
emailed Master
yeah,
Sergeant
no, dude, it's
so
a
and so this
serious thing.
day. he replied, said, he'd find a way to work me into his schedule for next
Yeah.
month.
Yep.
Where's he at?
Yeah.
And
No,
that,
you're not wrong, man. And it's something that like being on recruiting duty, it's make training paramount and
and
ensure if you are struggling and if you do need help, reach out and again do it via email.
mhm,
So that this way, God forbid you do get put on substandard or God
phone
forbid
calls are great. Follow it up
or
with an email to confirm.
yeah, say 3 years from now they're saying, "Oh, you know what? You're not going to get the ribbon," and now you look back and you're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, devil dog! I asked for some help."
Hmm.
Um, but at the end of the day, man, it's the biggest thing when it comes to recruiting duty, man, and I'm dealing with this right now, man, is we are our own worst enemies as recruiters. We a lot of times we don't point the finger at ourselves and we don't do enough justice to ourselves, and some of us don't ask for the credit. We don't I mean we Some of us don't ask for the help, or some of
Hmm.
us get the help and we don't want to admit that we're getting the help, or we're the problem and we don't want to admit it, right?
Yeah, because
So
especially
it's
when you're struggling, just remedial or zero training once a month, like it it's not enough because it's not that one-on-one training is where you can truly, because you can only identify your own issues so far,
Mhm.
because chances are you don't know the wrong turn you're making is the wrong turn,
Yeah, yeah.
and you don't always get that in that remedial training where you have 10, 15 Marines sitting around and you're going through these scenarios and everything. Well, you're role playing. It's not Role playing is great. I loved role playing. It was a great training tool, but it's not the same as talking to the applicant face to face.
Oh yeah, no, I think there's a lot of but role playing is going to be the closest thing you can get to, right?
Oh no,
Um,
absolutely.
but I think, and back to your point about the sitting in a room with 15 other people making phone calls. Um, I wish people would do away with that, because I don't see I've never seen it work, and anybody that I ask if it's helped them will tell you no, it hasn't. Because literally you're in a telephone call room, no one's paying, there's not enough attention being paid to your one phone call, and then by the time someone gets to you they can't explain to you what you did wrong.
Yeah,
So
even
having
if you even have the command members in the room with you while you're doing those.
exactly, like at that point it's just a haze fest, and it's just like, dude, I drove, and especially in an RS where people are driving 2 to 3 hours to get there to just do that, it's like I could have made these same phone calls in the
Yeah,
office. Like, it
hey,
doesn't make
hey, Sunday you're going to be up at the RSS. Everyone has to be there by 08:30. That means for me, that means leaving my house 4 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
and
no, I
then you're
don't.
not going to get released till like 6 at night. So now I'm getting back at 10 to 10:30 at night
Yeah,
on a
and then you are
Sunday.
and you already haven't seen your family all week long, like,
Mhm.
no, it
Most of
doesn't.
most of those appointments they get made out of desperation, or they're made with unreliable follow-ups from someone who probably no showed you in the past, who you
Exactly.
probably haven't
Yeah.
been in contact with, and they're just like,
Mhm.
yeah, you know what, I'll do it again. It got them off the phone last time.
Yeah. But the funny thing will be on Monday, they'll be like, "Bro, we had 33 appointments scheduled from 0-1 training." And then no one ever talks about how many of those appointments were no-shows. Because it's dude, that's not training. Putting a whole bunch of people in one room, it's not, man. And now mind you, like my RS did one, and it was a very different take on it. It was very different. So like our one of our mass sergeants, he had all of us come out there, and from 8 a.m. until I think like 11:30, we spent 3.5 hours going over, like, it was like turn charts, role plays, like diving into our numbers, knowing our ratios. And then he was like, all right, hey, across the table, start asking, hey, what are you dealing with right now? How are you overcoming it? So like that was very different. And then at the end of it, he was like, all right, hey, we're going to sit here and make phone calls. But at that point, I want to say there was probably maybe 8 of us in the room, and then we were all like kind of listening to each other. So very different thing, right? So again, I'm not saying that it's a horrible thing, I'm not saying that it's the best thing, but I think that what happens is that, like, in some RSs, that's the default training method, and it's just like, all right, well, hey, at least we did something. And it's like, dude, like, you need to
Did
have,
you?
yeah. Yeah, I would love to see a poll of people and find out like the actual data and see, hey, if you ever sat in that room on a Saturday or a Sunday, did it actually help your monthly numbers? Because I would, my opinion, I don't think that it does. But so, what are some things that you did on your own that you feel helped? Like how did you make it through the duty, man? Because it's been a
So
rough 3 years.
one of the things that I did, especially I'd say my last 8 to it's like 6 to 8 months, is I was having, other than like I said, the 2 months where I wrote the nuts in the beginning of FMAM, I was able to even myself out enough where I had some business coming in, but I was like, this sector's historically struggled this, so I kind of changed my focus of just how do I survive to how can I, because I knew the guy who was replacing me because it was an RSS they shut down, like it broke it out and everything else, so he was coming out from there. I was like, how can I get this guy set up? So one of the things I did, which actually ended up helping me more, and it's probably the reason why I only had those two nuts and not more, is I started exploring different avenues in my schools. I was going into schools, especially one of the things I did. I had a school who they basically completely shut out the whole military because of a meeting I had with them. They were giving colleges different privileges than they were giving us. I got told like, "Hey, go have a meeting with the vice principal. Like, talk to him about this. Explain, ask this. Be like, hey, you did this for the college. I'd like to be able to do the same." And they took it the wrong way, I guess, of me explaining, like, hey, you're letting these colleges come in and talk to your whole senior class at a time. I get you don't want me to come in and talk to them in a classroom. Can I do that? And it was a springtime, so I was like, can I do that with your junior class to talk to them about the NROTC scholarship? Big assembly, the same way you have the colleges coming to talk to your seniors. And they're like, sure, yeah, you know what, we can probably do that. After that, all of a sudden, they cut off all contact with me, all contact with the other branches. And then come to find out, a few months down the road when my ex was able to dig into it, they said that I had threatened to pull their funding and all this stuff. And I was like, what? Because even my ex was like, that doesn't sound like you at all. I was like, I didn't threaten them at all. I was like, the section of I forget which act, the Solomon Act or the No Child, which one of the acts
Yeah.
that was in there, I had read out a specific section that I had been told to read out to them, like explain to them, like, this is why we're asking this. And apparently that vice principal took that as me saying, like, hey, you know what? We're going to take away the money you get from the government if you don't allow us to do this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I was able to get back to that school and reopen them somewhat for us. It also helped. They got a new counselor who was a veteran in there that year. But I was also a P1 school I had in my AO that had been limited for like 8 years prior to it. I got the VOTEC part of that school completely open, which admittedly was partially my XO because he found their director of the VOTEC school and their career counselor. He got them on the educators workshop, got them down there. Then I happened to get in contact with them just after that. And that I could go into the VOTEC at that school and do whatever I wanted after that.
Nice.
So I was able to I just started literally just having FaceTime with kids. Like I just talking in the halls, everything there with them. And I got myself invited to a bunch of different things, including breakfast where the superintendent was going to be there. And talking to the superintendent, I explained to him like, hey, yeah, like we're this is awesome what we're doing here, but we can't really do that over on the other side of the school. Like we can only go into the lunchroom. They won't let us go talk to any of this, like the rest of the seniors and stuff. And that got changed. He put it down like, hey, no, like there's no reason that they shouldn't be allowed to do this. And they actually started the process to apply for a Marine JROTC there because of the experience of those two counselors and me talking to them. So I focus more on like, how can I start getting this whole sector more focused and opened up, not just like one sort of another, but get the whole sector. So it's opened up in there.
Yeah, man, and that's a good way to think about it, and that's how anybody should think about it, and that's how I've been thinking about it since I've gotten back. Because now it's like I said, man, it's not like it used to be where like you could run and gun and you could get people in immediately.
You have a kid in the office on Monday and have them at MEPS on Wednesday.
Yeah, like it's not like that. So now you have to play the long game. So now you have to figure out, okay, how can I help? How can I endure? And how can I make this thing last the whole FY?
Absolutely.
What are new ways for me to get into schools? What are new ways for me to do this? What are new ways for me to do this? And it's just a totally different It's what we should so here's the thing, it's not a totally different thing, it's just what we should have been doing all along that nobody wanted
Yeah,
to
and
do because it
part
takes a lot more time. So, yeah.
yeah, part of that change for me was I went from, I was like, I'm in here. I felt like you feel like you're fighting for your life on recruiting duty a lot of times.
Yeah.
And I struggled. And I
I
at that point,
missed it.
yeah, I was just kind of like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm like, my fate is my fate. I'm either going to get the ribbon when I leave or I'm not going to get the ribbon when I leave. So I
Yeah.
stopped worrying so much about me specifically. And I started worrying about just like, hey, the whole area, which was probably honestly more of my mindset that first year where I was doing that. I look back at it my first year, that's kind of my mindset. I was like looking at the whole thing of like, how can I do this? How can I get better with this? And then that struggle hit that coincided with Genesis and COVID fallout that really killed me. And from that point for a solid year, I was just in that fight for my life, try to get stuff across the table. And I wasn't thinking about all the rest of it that I could have done that probably would have helped me even more if I kept doing that alongside the whole fight for my life feeling of just how can I get contracts in and everything else.
Yeah,
Um,
and it definitely does feel like that, man. Like if there was any words to say, like, hey, what does recruiting duty feel like? It's that. It feels like it's a fight for your life every day. Like it's every moment of every day. It's like myself, man. I thought I was walking into a new week, walking in with an NWA tomorrow. I was like, bro, I'm gonna walk in on Monday. I got PCs, and then I went and sat down with mom and dad, and they were like, yeah, we're not ready to sign until November something. And I was like, dude. So it's definitely a lot. And then that one chip, makes you feel a certain way. And it's just, you know, coming in every day and trying to remind yourself, like, hey, it's a new day, it's a new dawn, it's a new grind. It's, and because very easily it can become, hey, I'm here to make the donuts, right? So
mhm,
it's hard to maintain that and remind yourself of that. And for me, I'm back 6 months now. I'm fully on EAD again as of October 2nd. So like I'm back as a canvassing recruiter. So like me, it's just like I'm just like, dude, this is exactly what you wanted. You're back, and now you got to make shit happen, right?
I got to ask that coming on a second tour doing the EAD, did they have to send you to BRC again?
So I don't want to say the word argument, but that's something that's been going back and forth and back and forth. I was supposed to sign, so I did sign a waiver. I haven't gotten it yet, but I'm being told from multiple people that the master guns, that whoever the RI is of the RS, apparently it's their discretion on whether or not the Marine has to return to BRC or not.
Mm,
So I haven't seen it in writing. I'm supposed to, because the SOU that I signed for my bonus to come back out here states that if I do not go to BRC, that I have to get a waiver from the CG. So I'm
mm.
in the midst of still figuring that
Still
out.
figuring all that out.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten a straight answer, but we'll see. But yeah, man, it's it's six. This is my 6 month back out here. I didn't want to admit that it was a different time, but it definitely is. Like now being out here 6 months, dude, things are so different than they were the first time out. I'm working more now. Like I worked hard my last tour, like
Hmm.
really. Like I'm in the same RS, different RSS, but I can tell you unequivocally, I'm working more now than I ever did then. And I mean like my numbers of the amount of TCs and ACs that I have a month compared to what I used to need are at it's insane, dude. And I don't think my skill has changed anything. I'm still trying to figure it out on my own. Like I'm still trying to figure out like what the fuck Bennett's not doing right,
Hmm.
because I'll be completely real, man. It is the most it's the hardest thing to do, to go from being a station commander all the way back to being a canvassing recruiter, having to restart from scratch, and then being the most senior recruiter in the office and struggling as hard as I am. Like
Yeah,
it sucks, dude. Like
I can imagine.
it is such a mental mind fuck every day that I go to work. because like, dude, I one, I have a podcast where I talk about recruiting duty. Two, I have over 4 years of experience on recruiting duty. Three, I was a successful recruiter and station commander. So the fact that I'm not killing it right now mentally freaking irritates the hell out of me. It's like
Mhm.
it's the most mind numbing thing ever daily.
Yeah, you got my boy Galindo with you too, don't you?
Yeah, man, he's my new boss, man. Someone said you definitely are mental. I don't know who that is. I'm thinking it's Master Guns Pat, but yeah, Glinda, dude, I'm telling you right now, man. I don't know. Um, I don't know if it's him or what, man. But it said he um said it irritates me too. Gunny O, Gunny Odenbrett or Gunny Orama. Yeah, man. It's yeah, dude. Staff Sergeant Galindo, man. I'm
He's good people.
Bro, I think I told him the other day. Well, I said he said correct. Oh, Gunny Odenbrett, nice. Yeah, yo, I'm gonna call you after this. But dude, so Gunny Odenbrett. Oh man, that's my homie. He's getting out right now. But dude, having Staff Sergeant Galindo as a boss, man. Dude, I told him the other day, no lie, and I told my wife this. I was like, I'd gladly be a recruiter for the next 2 years and not become a boss again. Like, I'm like, dude, I've never, and I told him this the other day, I've never had a station commander that I've wanted to work for like I want to work for him. Like, dude,
Mhm.
being with him, being around him, being in the same room as him, like, dude, just the way that he has that like command presence, but at the same time, you don't feel like you're working for him, you're working with him. And
Absolutely.
it's such a weird, it's something that I've never seen before in a station commander. I don't know if when I was a station commander, if my Marines saw me like that, but like, dude, it's dude, the office is a new breath of fresh air. The attitude of the pool, of the recruiters, of myself, he's definitely an awesome Marine, dude.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I say the way you put it. I mean, I never worked directly for him. I worked alongside him because we're the same MOS, MagTaf planners originally, and well, he was already I think before that, but
Yeah.
uh, I worked with him out in California, and when I first started working with him on stuff, I was like, oh man, I was like, this dude gets it, but I actually modeled a little bit of what I tried to do as a leader back then on it. Of he gets it, but he's also not afraid to tell people to fuck off if he needs to. And
Yeah.
he doesn't. He does. He doesn't care if they're his boss or something like that. Like if they're in the wrong, he'll put it. He'll put it out there.
Yep, dude. Yeah, man, it's good, man. But also he's the same person who's like, hey, man, like I don't know this, help me.
Yeah. No,
So he's
absolutely.
he's the best of all worlds, man, and I am definitely excited. He just got here this month, so I'm excited to see where we'll be with him. With the team and everything, man, it's definitely an upward trajectory. But yeah, man, just getting him snapped in, and now it's a relatively new team. Like everybody in the office has been here 9 months. Well, no, we have one 10 month, one 9 month, and then one 3 month, and then me. So, and I'm now officially on the bag. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
And
man,
then that biggest thing for stuff with the whole know your AO thing is definitely don't just know the people, the community, know the highs and lows. That way, because I know they say, oh, you should be prepared at all times. We're not. As recruiters, we're not. You ride your highs and you sink in your lows. It happens. So, and you don't always see it coming because, let's be honest, I know most of the time on recruiting, I didn't actually know what day of the week it was. I just knew I had probably this many days still shipping or this many days till I was off. I didn't know if it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday half the time
yeah.
because everything just blends together.
Yeah, dude, it really
Uh,
does, man. It's even not only that, dude, but the time flies. Like
yeah,
the fact that I've been back on the bag for 6 months already is ridiculous. Like it's insane that I've already been back out here 6 months.
but if you know, like, hey, this is the months that is the struggle for this AO,
Yeah.
you can start making sure you're pushing a little extra. It helps to keep yourself honest, keep yourself reminded of like, okay, I have to make sure I'm hitting this or this or this because worst
Yeah.
case, I have to try to make sure I sneak an extra one through this month That way, if it doesn't hit or something, he can hit next month or
Well,
something
and
like
that's
that.
a well, but that's the thing too, is that and like from what I've seen in the past 6 months, and I was having this conversation with
Yeah,
a
that's not
recruiter.
always the case.
Yeah, I was having this conversation with a recruiter a couple of days ago, and um, I basically because he was like, "Yo, I want to," so he was like, "Yo, I want to keep some for next month," and I just looked at him and I was like, "Dude, you can't." I
No.
was like, "You don't know. This isn't the back in the day. Like you know as much as I do that we don't project Genesis. So
Buckets
like."
don't
If you,
exist anymore,
yeah,
in my opinion.
buckets can't exist. You, as soon as you meet a kid, they've got to go up
Yeah,
immediately
if
because
you can if you
you
can
don't
write
know
a
what could
five that
happen.
month, write a five. If you write a nut the next month, your command's going to be like, you wrote a five last month. Don't write another nut, but we get it.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially
It's
if
like,
because if you write that five and then you write a nut, but you had 2 or 3 NWAs that month, they're
yeah,
going to understand. Hey, you were working those NWAs. They just couldn't process through right now for
yeah,
whatever they got hit for or something.
yeah. Like and that's the thing with me is that like I have been struggling hard body, but I still have maintained getting 3 to 4 NWAs a month. Like I get 3 to 4 NWAs a month.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so like my numbers are good. Like as far as like when a kid sits down 1 out of 2 times, they're gonna commit.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't, I follow up with them, they come back.
Yeah.
Right now, my biggest problem is East failures, and I've had a shit ton of no-shows. And again, the no-shows that I have are people who like the morning of are like, yeah, I'm on my way. And then it's like,
And
dude, what do you mean?
a lot of people like to say, it's this generation. I say, screw that. It's not this generation. It's our generation. That's the issue with that.
Mm,
Because think about it. Their parents are our generation for the most part.
yeah.
And their parent, like back, because I won't lie, I didn't listen at 21. I walked in the door, OT was like, give me paperwork. Like, I just wanted to go. When I was 18, I scheduled an appointment with a recruiter to be at my house. And I got that second thought and I picked up a shift at work instead. Well, the dude shows up at my house. My parents made me leave work to come home to have that appointment. Like, they were like, no, you set this, you're going to fucking be here. That whole, like, oh, is this how you raised your kid to
No,
be a
oh
liar?
yeah, dude, I
That
agree.
used to work for us. From our,
Yeah.
you put that on our parents. You put that on a lot of people our age now. They're like, fuck you. I've been dealing with this for 20 years, seeing everything. And we're
Yeah.
like, if my kid decided he didn't want to do it, he don't got to do it.
Yeah. No, you're 100%, dude. And that's why it's like it's tough, man, because like back in the day, I would always just be like, oh, as long as you got the parent on board, you're good. Now I have moms who are like, yeah, we're on our way, and then it's like, dude, what happened?
Yeah.
So
And
it's
then
uh
they
it's
sit there and you're
definitely
like, oh,
tough,
well, he
man.
changed his mind. Well, if that's what he changed his mind to, I'm going to support that because that's what I want him for. And I'm not
Yeah.
going to push him on it.
So, what would you say you've gained out of this experience, man? Finishing up your 3 years, getting back to the Fleet Marine Corps. How do you feel? And what advice do you have for the guy who's coming out?
I mean, I feel good. I think the biggest thing I did, so I was always saying my plan at the end of my time, I want to do 20 is go and work in my MOS field when I get out. I think recruiting duty honestly changed that. Oddly enough, sales has popped in my head a few times, but it's never stuck. I think the biggest thing for me was learning. If you look at the skill sets on recruiting duty that you get, the ability to, because if you think about it, you're in acquisitions, you're in the hiring process for a company. So learn all that. You're basically, and then you're managing the kids through the whole time in the depth. So you're basically an HR person,
Yeah.
more or less. You're a sales slash HR person on recruiting and figuring out how to mix that and use those skills, especially the HR skills of knowing like when issues come up, how to help people resolve that in a good manner instead of the typical, bash your head on a wall or just yell at them and tell them they're stupid, stuff like that. That communication on it, like literally just being able to talk and everything. Like my wife, because even now, like we're still in town where I recruited out of and everything. And we go out places and people see me, talk to me, everything's still like, how can you just, because we're both pretty introverted people. It's like, how can you just stand and talk to me like that? I'm like, I learned how to. I was like, and it's hooked us up in a lot of different ways out here, just on small little things of people being like, hey, we know this dude, he did this or this for the community. Like it's honestly one of the weirdest things. Uh, Cracker Barrel here, I put in 4 of the mom's kids there. I put 4 of their sons in. One of them, I put 2 of her sons in. Half the time, I go in there, I don't end up paying for my meal.
Mm-hmm.
They're up there and like it's a small thing, but they're just like, hey, you know what, we got this, and they put that out. I've had them recommend me to places that have given me different discounts and stuff because the people know me. So and I'm able to communicate and talk with them. So it's more of just that being able to talk and be involved. That's the biggest thing, and being able to have that. That's the biggest advantage you can have. You can talk to people and communicate and understand them. That's the biggest advantage you can have anywhere in life, a relationship, a job, anything you do. If you can communicate effectively with people, not necessarily trying to sell them, but just communicate effectively with them. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the biggest thing I think recruiting to do is learn how to effectively communicate with someone.
Yeah. Yeah. So you
Then
would say
you,
100% it's
you
helped
have
you.
a much better chance of success at whatever you're doing. Because I'm actually looking at changing what I'm going to go back to school for from going in the logistics field towards an HR field. Because I'm like, that aspect of the job, the communication part of it, like talking to people and helping with that side, I actually really enjoyed that side.
Mm.
The sales side of the job of making, 125 TCs a day or whatever it was, that's the side I hated of it.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. But the actual communication piece, that's what I love. So that communication is what I'm taking forward with me. Because like I said, like I said, me and my wife, even I think last time we were on, we told you like communication was the biggest thing. I can say without a shadow of a doubt, using that communication at home in my relationship, yes, I MC3'd my wife a few times when she was pissed at me. She caught on the third time I did it, and then she just got more mad. But being able to do that 100% saved my marriage out here. 100%.
Amen. Amen, man. Well, I'm glad to hear it, man, and it's good. And that's a great way to end it, man. Communication is key. Learn MC3, learn MC4, learn what you're being taught. If you need help, ask for it in
Yeah.
email. Make sure you take the time to learn and ask everybody the help that you can. Make sure that you take the communication aspect out of it, right? Get as much as you can out of it. That's going to help you in the long run, whether that's in the fleet or whether that's in a new job field once you get out of the military, or whether that's with your family. So thanks a lot, Scott. I hope traveling blessings and good luck with getting where you got to go, man. And thank you so much. And thanks to your wife for 3 years on a rigorous tour of recruiting duty. And that's all I got, brother. Thanks a lot.
Yep. See you.
Have a good night.
You too.